Hey friends, how's it going? It's been quite a journey since I saw you last. My knitting has only gotten more intense. Look at this, making a blanket out of alpaca. So soft. I've been making a lot of stuff, and I'm just the kind of person that I guess when I feel a calling, when I feel a pull, I just fully dive into it, just like 1,000,000%. And I don't always know why, I don't always understand why, and then something comes along, something shifts, and at some point it becomes very clear. Let's see if I have it becomes very clear that like the reason I was doing that thing, giving myself all this time, kind of clicks to make sense. And in regards to crocheting, it's what I do understand is that I want to make my own clothing, but I don't know how that might in the future. It's like Harry Potter. I've been diving back into the Harry Potter world, and it's like all these things, something happens now, but like it's a foreshadow, and I can't know my own foreshadowing, but in the future something happens. But I wanted to talk about something more intense than crocheting, which is death. My grandmother just passed away, and just to say, I was the oldest grandchild. We were close. She spoke very highly. I just loved me as her first grandchild. For whatever reason. But we're definitely very close. And she was 89 years old, and for her whole life, it seemed like she had unlimited energy. Like she was always the one that had more energy than any of us, and she was, just life of the party. Loved to dance, just was like always healthy, never had health issues, wasn't like dealing with stuff. She was just always healthy. And she was the last of my grandparents. And then a few months ago, she started developing some health issues, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then I guess in the last few weeks, it really took a turn. So I was driving out to the East Coast for just some time, and it just happened to be that we were out here and decided to change our plans to see her at the beginning of the trip, not the end. And I'm grateful that I did, because a little over a week later she passed away. And yeah, it was unexpected. Granted, she was 89 years old and lived an amazing life, but it was still unexpected, and it definitely brought up a lot for me. And one of the interesting things about doing all this crocheting is I ended up making some of my outfit for the funeral. Well, I didn't have any shoes, and I wanted to wear something, so I made these sort of shoe sock things, and just to honor her. And I made something else that kind of covered my body, and I was just sitting there for hours, probably 40, 50, 60 hours, just doing this kind of movement, which is just very repetitive, meditative. It can be, depending on the yarn you're using, it can be a little bit tedious, tricky, whatever, but it's also very meditative, and you just kind of get present and go into it, and just end up creating something. And in that process, I was doing a lot of processing of the loss of her, and just having all these thoughts and feelings, and going over different experiences we had together, and thinking about just the loss of people that you care about, and the importance of being present. And something shifted. I don't want to get into the details, just personal details of family, and I don't mind sharing personal details, but it involves other people. I just try to keep out of that stuff. But what's relevant here is that, I see this happen in families all the time. There's a couple things. One is that we try so hard to change people. We just want them to change, and we fight with them, and this. And sometimes there's an acceptance that happens, whether it's ironically, it was in her passing that a lot of, the family dynamics that were maybe rocky, it kind of all cleared out. And it's like, hey, we're all just here for a moment, and then it all goes away, and why not just appreciate each other and stop fighting. Whoa, man down. Stop fighting. So that was a big thing. I've definitely had experiences in the past where somebody and they lose a partner, and it's like you hear or you experience that in the entire relationship they were fighting and just never really appreciated each other, and then suddenly one person passes away, and then it's like they were the hero and they were amazing, and they only say highly. And I understand, but it can be frustrating, because it's like when you lose somebody, it's just a reminder to truly appreciate what you have here. We can spend our time trying to change people, wishing they were different, and fighting with them, but what we have is amazing. And usually what's interesting enough is typically the things that maybe frustrate us the most about a person, we end up missing the most. So just, I know it's strange because death puts things into perspective, but like, how can we kind of imagine someone's death or our own death in a way that we can actually be more present? There's a thing that I like to do um, with just if I'm ever feeling kind of lonely, or if I'm feeling like, I just don't have people in my life or whatever it might be, I'm feeling kind of down on myself. Sometimes I will imagine my funeral, and as morbid as that sounds, I think of all the people that would miss me and what they would say and how they would feel. And it's a reminder that, like, yeah, I do have good people in my life, and yeah, life is great, and I can rejoice in that presence of, like, oh, okay, like, how can I be more present in this world? And that's really all I'm here to talk about. Is when you lose somebody, you really start to see the importance of being present and cherishing what you have in the moment. And death just kind of puts it into perspective. That being said, I don't necessarily see death in the way that people see death. I've lost people in my life, and it's like they're never actually gone. And I know you hear that in movies, and so, oh, they'll always be with you, but it really is true, because life is holographic, and when you have these connections with people, they don't go away. Like, my best friend took his life years ago. It was just like, I couldn't believe it, but I didn't realize the impact that he would still have on me now, and how often I would think about him and dream about him, and just how I'd be influenced by that. So yeah, death is a weird thing, and I think in a lot of cultures, in our culture specifically, American culture, it's very sad, and understandably, and there's a lot of grief and loss, but also a lot of cultures, they celebrate death, and it's like, let's celebrate this person's life, and because they're not gone, they just shifted into a new form. So consider, if you're struggling with the loss of somebody or death, that it's good to grieve. Like I said, I'm still grieving, and I've spent like just hours just not distracting myself, but just like really thinking about it and being present with it, and processing all the feelings and having all the thoughts and memories that I could with my grandmother. And then also recognize that, like, the concept of losing someone is it's a strange thing, but only in the sense of what we consider to be permanent. And life is impermanent. Life is always changing. And if we can appreciate what we have now when it's gone, doesn't mean we're not sad. Still sad, but we're so present with those things that they're never really gone. If you really devote yourself to something, when it changes or shifts, it's like it's always a piece of you. And that's very different than just like distracting and fearing death, which is such a common thing. People are so afraid of death that they don't want to think about it or consider what it's going to be like for them or for other people. But I say go into it and really embody what it means to lose someone, so that you can fully receive them.